Good evening. We will call the November 5th, 2020 council meeting to order. If you want to speak on citizens to be heard or on any other item, if you could get a card and fill that out prior to coming up. If you think this looks strange, you are right. I think it is strange too. But I have a bad back and I could be horizontal or vertical, but I can't sit right now. And so hopefully this will be the last time I'm standing. It's bizarre to say the least. So I apologize to my colleagues and want to explain why to people who may be watching. Some people tuned in the middle of the work session and said, "What's wrong with you? Why are you standing?" So it's only because of my back. So with that, let's turn it over to Father Steve Kreloff, our pastor of Lakeside Community Chapel, for our invocation. I'd ask you all to rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Lord, we come before you at a very challenging, troubling time in our country's history and pray for peace, pray for justice, and fairness to be done, pray that you would bring calmness to a very turbulent situation. And we pray now for our council members that you will give them wisdom, that you'll give them insight to every situation that is brought to their attention. We thank you that government has been established by you. It is under your authority. And we pray for our mayor. We pray for his back. We pray that you would bring relief to the pain and discomfort that he's in. This we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. From your lips to God's ears. At this time, we have a couple presentations. If I could have Eric Corliss, the regional CEO of the Central Florida and U.S. Virgin Islands region for the American Red Cross. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Hibbert and council members, for this opportunity to talk about the American Red Cross and our services. We do have a presentation.
They're bringing it up.
Oh, it's right there. Move right ahead. So I'll start with what is the mission of the American Red Cross? Is to prevent and alleviate human suffering through the power of our volunteers and the generosity of our donors. The American Red Cross is a private nonprofit organization that is one of one society of 190. That's the Red Cross movement around the globe. And what I want to cover is talking about how do we serve across the United States, but also talk about what are we doing here in the Tampa Bay area and in Clearwater. So the next slide, and go to this, it's the donations are what fund the Red Cross. And 90 cents of each dollar donated goes towards our programs and services and serving those that I'm going to talk about here. The numbers that I have on the slide is a high level of what happens across the United States of America and its territories every day. But I want to move into and talk about what do we do here. So first and foremost, many of us know about disaster response, but what a lot of people don't think about, it is the fire that happens in a home. Those are the disasters that occur every day. We have disaster action team volunteers that respond 24/7. We're notified via the fire department and the 911 center, and they'll dispatch to the scene. Although now with the coronavirus, we're doing that virtually, so we get the verification, interview the family, and we provide financial assistance to help meet those real basic needs. And it's everything that you and I took for granted this morning when we woke up. Toothbrush, basic toiletries, a bed to sleep in, clothes to wear, and we have volunteers that provide that. In this year, just in the Tampa Bay area, that's 177 home fires that we were notified of. That translates into 303 families during this time frame, and our volunteers have responded in a socially distant way. Later on, I'm going to talk about larger disasters, but also this year in Central Florida, which is what I'm responsible for, we've had several tornadoes that affected Orlando and also DeLand. Red Cross volunteers were there, making sure that people had care, comfort, and resources. And right now with ETA, I want to say ETA, but with the storm that's out there, that's shifting in track and looks like it's generally pointing our way. If you trace one of those lines on the current forecast, we're preparing for what that might look like. I want to give you a sense of where we're responding. When I talk about those 177 disasters, this is a heat map to represent those for the Tampa Bay area. You see the concentration down in Pinellas County and then also around Tampa, which is no surprise. So it's for those that we have volunteers. This is Dr. Gadara. Let me introduce Ken. He's a board member and also a community volunteer leader. He's a retired physician, served in 2 roles. He served in the United States Army as a medical officer and also served as the chief medical officer for Shriners. And he retired and wanted something to do, and I said, come on over, and he's been here, so he's going to pick up and cover a few items, or you want me to keep on going?
Keep going, I'll be available. How's that?
All right.
You're on call.
For once, I'll be quiet.
We'll see. So he's a good friend, but Ken is like many of our volunteers that lend their expertise. I brought this up around preparedness because that is something that's just critically important. And as Floridians, we understand how important that is. But when we look at what are the most deadly disasters that we respond to on an annual basis, they are home fires. So this latest statistic is on average in the United States, there's around 2,700 deaths due to home fires every year. And the reality of it is it's preventable, and it's preventable by a device called a smoke alarm. And so we go door to door. We have paused it with coronavirus because we don't want to create that contact, but we are looking at strategies to reinstitute it and begin that. But if you look at Tampa Bay, since we began it, the program in 2014, we've installed 21,000 alarms in Tampa Bay. That translates just to almost, you'll see 8891. And then we also install bed shakers for those that are deaf or hard of hearing. In January and February, before we stopped everything, that was 529 homes. And we've had and I'll pull up the heat map. You'll see we've done a lot of work in this area. And we continue to really want to get to every home because the smoke alarm makes a difference. And we launched the program, and I was in Albany, Georgia when we launched it on the very first weekend in October. I've moved around the country with the Red Cross, which is ironic. When I got out of the Army, I said I don't want to move around, and I've moved around with the Red Cross. But that smoke alarm was installed, and 2 days later, a woman put her oven on the self-cleaning and went to bed and forgot she had a grease pot in her oven. So you know what happened. It caught fire. But the smoke alarm woke her up. She was able to call the fire department. They were able to get there, take care of the kitchen fire, which pretty much turned into an oven fire and some smoke damage. So when the media came, she was able to slam her door. So not only did we save her life, and she didn't have injury, but had relatively minor damage, what could have been a total loss to her home. So the importance of this, and we really rely on, we've worked with the fire department to install this, and we're looking forward to picking it up because it does save lives.
Want me to pull a case?
Sure.
Go back one. So shown on your right side lower is a classroom, and what we do is we go to the children's schools and have them bring a pillowcase, and they decorate it, and then we teach them what to put in it, essentials, including a teddy bear. Put it under your bed, grab it, and go if there's an emergency, whether it's fire, storm, or whatever. And that's a very good program, and you can see where we've been doing it. And it's heavy into both Hillsborough and Pinellas County, so we're available to do things like that. Did you see how I eased him off the podium? So we collect a lot of blood. We do 40% in the country. This is really your expertise, so go ahead.
Sure. So
my job's to give blood and surgery.
So the Red Cross is the largest blood bank. We don't collect blood here in the state of Florida, but it is 90% of the blood supply. We have been leading the effort in the blood banking industry around convalescent plasma for not only finding a vaccination, but also for the treatment of those that are ill. That continues to be a priority need. We do partner strategically with OneBlood as an organization. We work together on national testing labs, and we also run the blood indexing for the entire blood industry out of our office in Douglasville. And then we do work together on blood management. So when you put the two of us together, that's over 50% of the nation's blood supply in working with OneBlood, and that's where I donate blood here in Florida. So it's an important activity. We encourage that. Our service to armed forces, both Ken and I served in the military, both served in the Army, and we provide that vital link. So when my grandfather passed away, my mother contacted the Red Cross, which she just had to lean out our office door because she worked there, and said, can you get a hold of my son? They verified the emergent that my grandfather passed away, relayed the message to my company commander and a chaplain and my platoon sergeant came. So I'm enlisted. Ken's an officer, so he doesn't make me salute him. Sorry for the bad humor. But we provide that vital link so families have an opportunity to make a decision, and the service member has a decision to come home. And sometimes it's to say goodbye, sometimes it's for good causes, but we provide that vital link. Additionally, with my brother served, my younger brother also outranked me, he was an officer, served in Iraq and Afghanistan. We have resiliency training, and what it provides through trained mental health professionals is tools and resources to cope with the stress of combat. And so we provide training before the service members come home, and we have training for the families. My brother came back, and we're working with him. And I have a brother who's a firefighter, a brother-in-law is a police officer, we're all in the helping business. But when Sam came home from Afghanistan in particular, it was challenging. And those tools and resources are there to provide help and help us understand and help to work. So that we provide them virtually online. They're available to military members and their families. So if there's any affinity groups here in the city, love to work with them and offer this training so that people get those resources. Because this additional stresses of what's gone on has increased what we're seeing in the community. So international services, really for the most part, what do we do here? We have volunteers with expertise that do travel. We do fundraise as a Red Cross. Most recently, Hurricane Dorian had the substantial effect on the Bahamas, and we work with the Bahamian Red Cross and the Bahamian government we provided experts in our technical areas and also financial assistance. And we have a variety of things that we do internationally. We also do help connect people that are separated. So I once had working on a case where a 21-year-old daughter was looking for her father that fled Africa during a time to the United States because of the political unrest. And we help to reconnect them through the Red Cross societies.
And we also do immunizations overseas. Like we're working against measles right now in developing countries. Good. So training, we do a lot of training. We do most of it virtually now, although we have training at our facilities. A lot of it is online, as I said. You can take BLS, any of your first aids. You can take psychology courses, nursing assistant. We do evaluations for responders. And I actually took the first aid course, first responder course, and I thought it would be easy since I was a surgeon. And I almost flunked it till I really started studying. But, they're great courses, and we are available. And you can talk about the apps later, but we have several apps that can help you hook up your people to these services if you need it. So what's happening now, Eric?
So just want to give you this last area we want to cover. This is the activity chart of what's happening across the country. The green bubbles represent what we call disaster relief operations, but they're responses to large disasters. And what have we seen? And as of this morning, there were still 5,000 individuals in 3,000 hotel rooms. More than half of those were still displaced because of Hurricane Laura in Louisiana. What we're seeing in Oregon, California, Colorado, and especially Louisiana, when you take the COVID environment, the economic impacts, you put that displacement and the damage and the separation, it is taking longer for people to be able to return home and recover from disasters. So we're getting close to what is the end of hurricane season, but we do have that storm coming, and should something happen, we're continue to work with emergency managers, but in particular, looking at how do we strategize to help families in ways, because the impact is really compounded with everything that has occurred in 2020. And we're seeing this all over the place, and I've put up this slide just as a context as we wrap up. In 2020, as of the end of September, there were $16 billion disasters in the United States. And if you looked at in comparison to previous years, it is the busiest year, along with 2011 and 2017. So for us and our volunteers, we've had 350 volunteers deploy from Central Florida and go to Oregon, go to Texas, go to Louisiana, those areas, and help, along with responding here. And they bring those lessons learned. So we're seeing a lot of impacts. In this last slide, before we close it up, I won't play the video. This is in Oregon. It's a little community called Phoenix, Oregon. My brother's been a structural firefighter for 19 years. He did wildland firefighting up until he got married, and his wife said do something less risky. So he stopped that part. He was working this fire, and you look at, if you've never seen it, the devastation is significant, but his fire in particular was 155,000 acres, and it was the 5th priority in the state of Oregon. which is really saying something. And then you multiply that across the state of California, and then most recently in Colorado, we're seeing just extraordinary disasters. And this community was literally burnt off the map. So this fire right here was only 3,200 acres and destroyed 2,300 homes in 8 days.
And locally, there's smaller fires, and we respond to those, as he alluded to earlier. But it's interesting, when you go there as the medical team, the people, they left their dentures, their glasses, their prescriptions, and we take care of that. We get a hold of doctors, we get them on their, we get them coverage with their insurance, and we have several pharmacies we work with. But it's amazing what people don't have after even a smaller fire.
So lastly, just we're always urging people to prepare. We had the clocks changed last week, and if you didn't test your smoke alarms, and I'm not talking about when you cook something too long, but really deliberately go and test it, make sure you've tested, review your evacuation plan, make sure you're prepared. Because what we've seen in studies and research that's done on why didn't people evacuate, because they didn't know where to go. Or you've seen where if you have a family, and I have 2 daughters, and I evacuate, but I don't know where they're at, and I don't have that meeting point, there's also a lot of injuries of parents when they go back in looking for their children. So there's really basic things that'll make our firefighters' jobs easier so they can focus on that, and it'll save lives and make a difference. So we're looking forward to the re-entry and then starting to do this program again. And then the last part I just want to highlight is Ready Rating is a resource for community organizations and businesses. It's readyrating.org, and it is a online website that helps organizations develop a disaster response plan, and it asks a series of questions, and if they are not able to answer a yes, it connects with resources to turn that no into a yes to better prepare our businesses so we're more resilient as a community. And again, thank you, Mayor, thank you, council members, for your time today.
And
Thank you, Mr. Corliss.
we
Doctor.
just want to say that we're a resource. We're here, we're in the community, storms coming, fires here. We'll leave our cards, and we want to work with you, so.
Any questions? Thank you all. I mean, in times like this, our not-for-profits are more important than ever, but your resources are stretched, so people who do have the resources still to donate, I would encourage not only for the Red Cross, but many of our great charities. Thank you, gentlemen.
We're happy to partner with you, so.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Take care.
If I could have Whit Blanton come forward from Forward Pinellas for a presentation. No. Yeah, I haven't. Thanks. I'll get there.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Whit Blanton, Executive Director of Fort Pinellas, and with me today is Brian Pissarro of the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority. And we just want to have a little bit of a conversation with you today about a potential funding and project for looking at the feasibility of an aerial cable transit project that this community has been talking about for a long, long time. T-BARTA actually has money in hand to conduct the study. So we just want to get a read from the council and the mayor about any questions you might have and whether there's support for us proceeding down this path. So I'll turn it over to Brian Pissarro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Hibbert, members of the City Council. My name is Brian Pissarro. I'm a principal planner at the Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority. T-BARTA and Forward Pinellas are putting together a scope of work for an aerial gondola study. The study would be fully funded by T-BARTA, so the good news is we're not here tonight to ask you for money. We're simply here tonight to find out, is the council interested in having this study include looking at a potential gondola connection from downtown Clearwater to Clearwater Beach? Just to give you a little bit of background, in 2019, the Florida legislature gave T-BARTA a $1 million earmark to study innovative transit technologies. The legislature had been getting inquiries about some of these innovative technologies like Hyperloop, air taxis, and aerial gondolas, and they wanted someone in the state to study them. They gave the task to T-BARTA, and they gave us $1 million to go do it. In July of this year, we completed a high-level feasibility study of those 3 modes. That study looked at the current state of the technology, the current regulatory environment, and it also looked at some geographic connections at a high level. That study costs roughly $221,000, which means there's $779,000 remaining in the earmark if you want to do some follow-up work. I know that this gondola connection from downtown to Clearwater Beach is an idea that's been talked about over the years, but it's never actually been studied. One of the recommendations from that study that we wrapped up was to find out if the cities are interested in taking the next step and seeing if a particular route or routes was viable. Whit and I, over the past several weeks, have been meeting with different groups to see if there's interest in the study. So, for example, we've met with Mayor Kreisman and some of his staff. We've met with FDOT. We've met with both Chambers of Commerce. We've met with Mayor Hibbert and City Manager Horn. The City of St. Petersburg is definitely interested. Mayor Hibbert recommended that we come to the council and just kind of present this idea to you as a whole to see if you are interested. As I stated before, Whit and I we're in the process of putting together a scope of work. This study would look at estimated capital, operating, and maintenance costs for the gondola. It would look at projected ridership. It would look at what would be its impacts on traffic and on other modes of transit, like what would be its impacts to the Jolly Trolley or to the ferry. It would look at different route alignments, finance options, and obviously there would be a public involvement component to it. To be clear, the study would not commit anyone to implement a gondola project. It's simply trying to find out, is it feasible? Is it workable? Our goal is to put this study out for competitive bid by January. And so really we're just here tonight to find out, is the City Council interested in us including this corridor in the study? That's basically in a nutshell why we're here.
And you all have that presentation. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I was very interested. I talked to Whit about it a few days ago, and this is something we've been talking about for years. So I know we have concerns. My question would be where? And I know we have some points of compression that I'm not really clear on how that would work, but I guess that's what the study would look at, right?
Right.
And see how that they would get from the mainland to the beach in the best way. And I've kind of heard a little bit about this. I guess one of the concerns before the council looked at is they didn't want to give up the center lane of the causeway because, you know, we've spent a lot of money in landscaping it nicely, and that means a lot to the citizens of Clearwater. I mean, but I hear that this might be a different route, maybe over the water, which sounds very interesting to me. And I know we'd have some hurdles doing it that way. We'd have to get the Army Corps engineer approvals and things like that. But as far as I'm concerned, 1 out of 5, I'm very interested in moving forward on actually seeing a plan that would really work.
Other questions, comments?
I'm supportive of a study, sure. Let's find out more, the possibilities, absolutely.
Councilmember Hamilton?
I have no problem with a study. I'm also a little bit, and I've been very straightforward on this, and I think Whit's aware of this. I have no problem. A gondola system, you know, is it really, especially going from Clearwater to Clearwater Beach, are we getting people to the beach itself? Because if you've got kids and umbrella and chairs in tow, it's not real conducive to that. It's very good when traffic's backed up all the way across the causeway. No problem, no doubt about it. But today, for instance, there was no traffic getting to the beach. There was plenty of parking on the beach. So on those days, this is more of an attraction than it is a real transit answer. So my question then becomes, who's paying the freight on it? And you know, what is the cost of operation, and is it going to take taxpayers' money to fund it when it doesn't have the ridership that it can get? Yeah, it'll be great when you're in it going across the causeway to the beach and it's bumper to bumper traffic and you're just kind of looking and waving at all those cars sitting still. But on days where we're not in that situation, it's more of an attraction than an actual transit system to me. So, but I'm more than willing to see the study and see what it says and get hard numbers and projected numbers to it, so we know what we're really looking at.
Yeah, I'd be happy for a study as well. I am concerned about the financial cost. And also, what's the record of the gondolas breaking down? So I'm used to like going to Disney or the San Diego Zoo, and yeah, it's terrific to take the gondola. But I've been stuck up there before, and I've seen people stuck up in a gondola. So if it breaks down, how often does that happen, and how long would it take, basically, to get people moving again?
That's probably beyond the scope of this study, other than,
Okay.
although you can look at the technology.
Yeah.
I mean, and I told the gentleman when we met, and I used to be on the T-BARTA board and the MPO and all the other transportation boards. There's two things that concern me. First, I don't want to just take the money for the study just because the money's there, if we don't have a reasonable intent to follow through. And to your question, there's almost no mass transit that does not require some type of public subsidy. It's just the way it is. And Councilmember Hamilton's point, you know, in our slack times, which are fewer than they ever used to be. I mean, we used to have a 2-month window that was crazy on Memorial Causeway, and then the rest of the year was manageable. That's not the case anymore. But here is my other concern. And we've really looked for alternatives for Clearwater Beach. But my only concern is if we do have another way to get people over to Clearwater Beach, there will become a point where we are saturated and you will ruin the experience of being over at the beach because we have added capacity. Today, the governor on how many people we can have on the beach, we talked about on Monday, it's parking and it's the causeway. But if we give another window or another opportunity to get out on the beach, you could actually flood the entire beach and create a poor experience. That's why even Disney shuts down at some point, because they get to a maximum capacity and they're not going to ruin the experience for their patrons. So that's just something I want us to think about. In all my years, that never really dawned on me until recently. When we talked about, we talked about a monorail. The bridge was originally built for a monorail. It won't handle one now because of the fix on the bridge. I don't think any of the engineers would sign off on it. In fact, I know they wouldn't. We could use rubber tired on the bridge, but we can't use a monorail. But that's the only thing. I don't want to just study something to study it, have another report that we put on a shelf and don't do anything with it, because that money can be used for something else that actually is going to get done. So that's A, and then the second is just saturation. So just something to think about. But if you all would like to be a part of it, I'm not going to stand in the way. I'll support a study.
How long is the study going to be?
It's a little early to tell. Like I said, we're still putting together the scope of work, but I mean, I would probably think at least a year.
Okay. Because I was thinking that it would be beneficial to get people from the beach to come over to Imagine Clearwater once it's done, so.
That's as much a benefit as getting people out to the beach, maybe more.
I also think that there's an opportunity for this to be a catalyst for some redevelopment too. It would be a unique thing. We don't really have anything like that anywhere else. One thing I just want to say is the value of T-BARTA having this money and doing the study is that it will be done publicly. And the ridership estimates, the analysis will be information that will be shared and not proprietary, and for everybody to look at and understand. And the commitments that would be required would be evident and clear to everybody. And that's our intent, is to make that as transparent a process. And then understand if the public really does support this kind of thing or not, and what concerns they might have, whether it be aesthetics, visual blight, whether it may be access. And then the proponents of this kind of system do say that it can be easily expandable. So if it's a successful starter segment to and from downtown and the beach, There are potential options for it, maybe continuing, whether it's Dunedin or east. Those are the kinds of things that they've talked about. And in other places, these systems have expanded. Mostly they're in places with terrain differential, whether it's mountain inclines or crossing large bodies of water. But again, the city of St. Petersburg is interested in looking at it from the Tropicana field to the pier and maybe connecting some of their destinations. I think the study would look at both cities if there's interest in both cities. So we're not asking to pit one city against the other.
So what's your pleasure? Councilmember Beckman?
Well, you ask about our reasonable intent to follow through, and I think if numbers align, if things align right, certainly I think we'd follow through, right? If things look good. But I mean, we have no idea until we do the study. So I mean, I commit to, if things look great on paper and the public is supportive, sure, but we don't know that until the study comes in, right? I mean, so.
To an extent, there'll be some people that I know will be opposed, depending on where it's located along the causeway, because at one point we were going to clean up some of the mangroves, and everybody on the north side did not want that, because they didn't want traffic peering into their backyards. Mm-hmm. I would assume that they wouldn't want the gondolas on the north side of the causeway for the same reason. There won't be a unanimous support for anything, including world peace. I mean, it's just the way it is. But I'm hearing you want to go forward with, we want to at least be in the process, I guess. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Now it's that time where Mr. Horn gets to go to that side of the dais, and I was remiss in not introducing everyone on the dais, so Mr. Horn is walking to the podium. I have Councilmember Bunker, Councilmember Hamilton,
Good evening.
Vice Mayor Albritton,
Good evening.
Councilmember Beckman, and our illustrious City Attorney Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
Illustrious.
Mr. Horn, the state of the city.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, residents of Clearwater, audience that's here tonight. I'd like to present to you the 2019-2020 State of the City Address. Are we going to get the slides up? Okay.
They're up.
Okay, all right. Mayor and City Council members, as you well know, the City of Clearwater and our nation and world experienced challenges this year that none of us could have anticipated. The onset of COVID-19 pandemic was a huge challenge, one that brought out the best of the city's teams. Employees worked hard, and together we did the best we could to keep our community and employees safe. Our employees banded together and found solutions to get us through an array of new challenges. This year, before the pandemic and since, the city has seen many successes. And so I'll talk about these accomplishments later in the presentation, but right now, I want to do the most important thing and say the most important thing that I can tonight is to thank you for your support this past fiscal year. And I look forward to the successes that 2021 will bring us. In presenting the state of the city, we're going to give an introduction. We're going to talk about the city's financial status, citywide accomplishments, and our next steps for the next fiscal year. In fiscal year 2019-2020, the city of Clearwater employed 1,591 full-time staff, 73 part-time city employees in 23 city departments. They work hard to give exceptional service in an efficient manner and are focused on our mission and vision. So let's talk about where the money goes. In developing the budget for fiscal year 2019-2020, staff strategically reviewed service operations to carefully balance adjustments in staffing and resources with financial stability in the future. As the slide shows, the 2019-20 budget was $555.5 million for citywide services. This was an increase of $6 million across all city operations. The general fund budget, which is our operational budget, reflected expenditures of $154.7 million. That was an increase of 2% from last year's budget. And finally, the city's approved millage rate for this fiscal year stayed at 5.955. This is a chart that represents the city's general fund expenditures. Our operating budget was $154.7 million. Note spending on public safety was 48% of our expenses, and quality of life spending was 25% of our budget. 18% was spent on administration and other expenditures, and 5% was spent on engineering projects. 4% was spent on planning and development. This is a chart that represents the city's general fund revenues. Revenues in the city's fiscal year 2019-20 budget were $154.7 million. 42% came in the form of property tax. 17% was generated through franchise and utilities fees. 14% was generated by intergovernmental streams, and 9% through charges for service. Transfers in generated 8% of city revenue, 6% was generated by other services, and 4% by other taxes. The city's projects, initiatives, and work all embody the City of Clearwater's strategic direction. It is the city's roadmap that dictates our priorities. The strategic direction embodies those qualities and keeps staff focused on the following priorities: diversify the economic base, increase economic opportunity, develop and promote our brand, foster community engagement, be efficient, provide quality work, being financially responsible, and keeping people safe. Next, we're going to talk about the city's top accomplishments from the fiscal year that just ended. The city has seen many successes this year, despite the onset of the pandemic. City achievements are broken down into two categories: successes that resulted from the city's response to the pandemic, and accomplishments throughout the course of regular business. Let's start with what we accomplished that is associated with COVID-19. The city maintained essential city functions for the community, including police, fire, and water, and sanitation services during the COVID-19 shutdown in March of 2020. A majority of the city's essential city employees reported to work either on-site or remotely, and together they maintained city operations throughout the crisis. Other employees were placed on administrative leave and stayed home to help flatten the curve. I am proud of our workforce and their hard work. Their dedication has helped the city best serve the residents of Clearwater. This accomplishment embodies the city's strategic direction of efficiency. The city's emergency manager and response team worked hard to implement swift, immediate safety actions, precautions, procedures, and closures citywide to protect employees and residents at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. The response team made tough decisions with safety in mind as the city closed down its operations, and also as Governor DeSantis ordered portions of the state to reopen. Decisions were made and implemented strategically and deliberately. In addition, the city developed and implemented a face covering policy and symptom-based stay-at-home policy, which helped to keep the city positivity rate to 4.6% of our employees. The city also successfully supplied personal protective equipment or face masks to all city employees, and our general services team engineered barriers for city libraries, recreation centers, and city departments to keep residents and employees safe. We also implemented COVID-19 protocols for our workforce, such as daily mask wearing, wellness checks, safe distancing, obtaining proper PPE for sickness-related calls. The city handled personnel sickness notifications, quarantine, self-isolation, and COVID-19 testing for the city's police and fire departments. Clearwater Fire and Rescue provided antibody testing to all fire department personnel. To date, the city has prevented mass outbreaks among staff and departments. All of these actions represents the city's strategic direction of safety. The city's information technology department kept the city connected through the pandemic's onset. The department added 300 mobile devices to the city's computer inventory to support telecommuting demands and increase resiliency to operational response. 500 network licenses with multi-factor authentication were added to facilitate remote work and support operations while maintaining network security. The city also deployed Microsoft Teams and Zoom video conferencing tools to facilitate safe distancing collaboration among our staff. Since February 1, 2020, more than 4,800 city employees have participated in more than 1,055 Zoom meetings for a total of almost 650,000 meeting minutes. More than 860 employees began using Microsoft Teams for audio and video meetings. They have participated in more than 7,190 Teams meetings and for more than 53 million meeting minutes. In addition, the IT department increased internet bandwidth to accommodate remote operations and city-hosted online services. Together, the availability of these tools greatly improved the staff's ability to communicate and collaborate during the shutdown. These efforts reflect the strategic direction of efficiency. Clearwater Police Department took an active role in managing and mitigating the COVID-19 pandemic by educating businesses and the public on safer at home restrictions and addressing compliance issues. Additionally, Clearwater Police Department was responsible for enforcing the Pinellas County government's closure of Clearwater Beach, managing the density of Clearwater Beach when it was reopened, and addressing other pandemic-related emergency orders. This accomplishment ties into the city's strategic direction of safety. The Public Communications Department built and maintained a special COVID-19 website that featured health, state, and community updates. To date, the website has been accessed more than 176,200 times since March of 2020. At the height of the pandemic, it was accessed more than 3,200 times per day in June of 2020. The city also communicated CDC guidelines, pushed out COVID safety messaging via the city's social media channels. This program showcases the city's strategic direction of safety and develop and promote our brand. The Clearwater Public Library System instituted curbside pickup and expanded drive-through services at Clearwater Library branches to safely allow patrons the ability to pick up borrowed materials during the pandemic. In addition, the library hosted a variety of virtual programs, take-home crafts, to allow patrons to use library services while safe distancing. These actions embody the city's strategic direction of safety and efficiency. The Planning and Development Department expanded the use of online permitting by requiring certain permits to be filed online. This is called e-permitting, and it includes permits for windows, doors, garage doors, water heaters, roofs, etc. This was part of the city's plan. However, COVID forced the city to implement the program quicker than anticipated. At the present time, 80% of permits are now processed online. Inspections were also conducted remotely by FaceTime when allowed or applicable. This program showcases the city's strategic direction of efficiency. More than 70 households were provided financial assistance through the city's mortgage, rent, and utility program, which used federal funds authorized by the CARES Act. A portion of the program was distributed through Florida Housing Finance Corporation. Payments of more than $180,000 were made on behalf of households for overdue rent, mortgage, and utilities. This community support program ties into the city's strategic direction of increased economic opportunity. The Economic Development and Housing Department launched the Clearwater Back to Business Grant and Professional Services Program to support the local small and business community. The program provided financial grants to 276 of the hardest hit small businesses and access to $1,000 in professional services in the areas of marketing, web design, business consultation, accounting, and legal services. The city partnered with 3 Clearwater Business Spark partners to administer and deliver part of the program. The city has provided more than $1.3 million in grants and services to businesses. These programs embody the city's strategic direction of increased economic opportunity. The city's Community Redevelopment Agency initiated a temporary street closure of the 400 and 500 blocks of Cleveland Street in downtown Clearwater in response to the pandemic. This closure keeps out vehicle traffic, creating a pedestrian-friendly outdoor dining zone for patrons of downtown restaurants and bars to safely distance. The closure also coincided with a restaurant voucher program established by the CRA to generate business on Cleveland Street for struggling restaurant owners during the pandemic. This change was so successful that downtown business owners and some residents have begun to petition for its permanency. The closure of Cleveland Street satisfies the city's strategic direction of increased economic opportunity. As Governor DeSantis issued executive orders to open up the state, the city's Parks and Recreation Department safely and effectively opened summer camp programs for Clearwater residents. The department operated a summer camp program at 5 recreation centers for a total of 54 days during the pandemic, with an average of 200 children participating per day. Only 6 coronavirus cases were reported, all of which were individual cases. There were no program shutdowns due to safety practices and policies the city created based on CDC guidelines. This represents the city's strategic direction of safety and quality. So next, I'm going to talk about the city's successes throughout the course of our regular business. The Clearwater Public Library System partnered with the Clearwater Library Foundation to host backpack giveaways at all 5 Clearwater Public Library System locations. More than 1,000 children and teens received free backpacks, each filled with school supplies and books. This program promotes the city's strategic direction of foster community engagement. The city achieved $2.5 million in net present value savings on a debt refinancing and issuance of water and sewer refunding bonds completed prior to the pandemic. This is a huge savings, one that reflects the city's strategic direction of financial responsibility. Construction projects that were completed this year include the Clearwater Gas Complex, Solid Waste Transfer Station, Mandalay Pedestrian Bridge replacement, Seminole Boat Ramp, and David Avenue Stormwater Pipe Rehabilitation. Together, the constructing of these city facilities embodies the city's strategic direction of quality. The city's Sustainability Office designed and launched Clearwater Creates Compost program in partnership with Pinellas Creates Compost to teach residents about the basics and benefits of backyard composting. More than 800 people enrolled in the online course, and more than 300 residents received a free backyard compost bin for completing the class. This program completes the city's strategic direction of efficiency. The Community Redevelopment Agency implemented a downtown dining restaurant voucher program to support downtown businesses. This program helped to generate more customer traffic and financial support to downtown restaurant and bar owners amid the onset of COVID-19. This program showcases the city's strategic direction of increased economic opportunity. Much of the city's budget is costs associated with staffing. This year, the city's Human Resources Department negotiated a flat increase renewal for health insurance while maintaining current benefit structure and promoting the city's wellness program. In addition, more than 700 employees participated in a range of wellness biometric screenings. The efforts made by Human Resources to provide quality services for staff and by keeping them affordable for our taxpayers represents the city's strategic directions of quality and financial responsibility. On September the 15th, 2020, two separate contractors hit and broke gas lines, one in Pasco County and one near the San Key Bridge on Gulf Boulevard, causing two major emergency gas line breaks. These happened on the same day, within an hour of each other. Clearwater Gas System quickly and efficiently repaired the two major gas leaks in record time. Clearwater Gas' swift response and expertise showcases the city's strategic directions of safety and quality. To support efforts to prevent and address root causes of homelessness, the city used federal grant funds to provide more than $19.2 thousand in salary and administrative support for two public service agencies. Additional general fund revenues were provided to 7 agencies to further support efforts to reduce street-level homelessness. With the assistance of the street outreach case manager from Directions for Living, 172 homeless individuals from Clearwater were placed in local shelters such as Pinellas Hope, Homeless Empowerment Program, Turning Point, The Haven, and Axe Detox. Helping the homeless in Clearwater promotes the city's strategic direction of fostering community engagement and safety. The city's Finance Information Technology and Human Resources departments spearheaded the implementation of a new Tyler Munis human resources payroll system. This provides many advantages and efficiencies. These include electronic workflow, real-time interface with Tyler Munis General Ledger financial system, enhanced human resources tools and functionality, modeling what-if scenarios for budgeting and labor union negotiations, and employee self-service access for payroll documents, and routine payroll changes. These upgrades represent the city's strategic direction of efficiency. A cross-departmental team that led the city's pre-planning and communication efforts with the Clearwater Urban Leadership Coalition to determine the feasibility of creating a community redevelopment area in the North Greenwood community. The City Council supporting moving forward with the formation of the Special Taxing District. This effort ties into the city's strategic direction of diversifying the economic base. The city made enhancements to several outdoor recreation spaces to better serve Clearwater residents and visitors. The Parks and Recreation Department completed several capital improvement projects, including renovations of Crest Lake Dog Park, Philip Jones restrooms, Countryside Sports Complex Stadium Field, press box, restrooms, concession stand, storage building, and improved parking lot. These improvements to the city's recreation opportunities showcase the city's strategic direction of quality. Placemaking is a process for creating communities where people want to live, work, and play by reimagining underused public spaces through art. This year, the Planning and Development Department implemented several successful placemaking programs, which included storm drain murals, litter free libraries, dumpster art, sidewalk poetry, and paint the pavement intersection murals. These contributions to placemaking programs from residents, volunteers, and artists help to make Clearwater a bright and beautiful city for all residents. Our placemaking successes tie into the city's strategic direction of quality. The city is proud of Clearwater's police department, which works very hard to keep our residents safe. This year, the city achieved an 8% reduction in burglary offenses and a 5% reduction in robbery offenses. The department achieved this reduction thanks to its several partnerships throughout the community to prevent and address crime. This success promotes the city's strategic direction of safety. Completion of improvements to the Seminole boat launch was achieved this year. The city finished the phase of construction in the Seminole Street boat ramp and the North Marina Improvements Project, which has reopened with record crowds using the facility. The project includes a new green space, a trail extension to the waterfront, a new kayak launch area, improved vehicle and trailer parking, advanced stormwater treatment and drainage improvements, enhanced public walkways, additional benches and a waterfront promenade, and new landscaping, lighting, and restroom. The project ties into the strategic direction of quality. No 2 days are the same for our public safety departments. Staff from Clearwater Fire and Rescue recently delivered 2 beautiful babies in unique circumstances. One aboard a pontoon boat and one at Station 45. These heroic actions represent the city's strategic direction of safety. All of Clearwater's water meets or exceeds federal and state drinking water guidelines, thanks to the hard work of the teams at Clearwater Public Utilities. This past fiscal year, the city produced more than 2.6 billion gallons of drinking water at Clearwater water treatment plants. It treated 5 billion gallons of wastewater, and it produced 2.3 billion gallons of high-quality reclaimed water. The city's high level of water production and treatment showcases the city's strategic direction of quality. Many residents needed help paying for utility bills this year, both before and after the onset of COVID-19. The city's utility customer service department coordinated with the Salvation Army to prevent customers in need of temporary bill paying assistance with a total of more than $17,000 through the We Care Fund. This program reflects the strategic direction of foster community engagement. So those are the accomplishments for fiscal year 2019-2020. So what's next for fiscal year 2020-2021? Goals for the coming year include ensuring the public safety amid the pandemic, it hadn't gone away, implementing the Imagine Clearwater Bluff Revitalization Master Plan, constructing fire stations 46 and 47, and updating the Green Print Master Plan and the Cultural Affairs Master Plan. And of course, the city will continue to focus on providing high-quality core municipal services that our residents have come to expect each day. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Mayor Hibbard, the City Council, and our wonderful residents for all of your support in the last fiscal year. We've accomplished a lot, and your support helped make a lot of what we do possible. I also like to thank our employees for their dedication and hard work every day, especially amid the pandemic, to take care of what needs to get done in our beautiful city. So at this time, I'd like to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Any questions? It was so complete, there's no questions. But I do want to say thank you to you and the entire staff. I know it's been stressful and continues to be. For our residents, it's stressful. For our employees, I want to thank those who partnered with us, because it wasn't just the city, it was us reaching across and getting other people to help us accomplish everything this year. 3 of us were only here for 6 months of it, so my 2 comrades here on my right and left were here for the whole 12 months, and we look forward to the next 12 months. So thank you.
Well, the continuity has been great. You know, councils do change, but when you come in like you all have done, and you have supported us, we didn't miss a beat, and we want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I would ask if there are any amendments to the minutes of the October 14th meeting.
Move approval of the minutes as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. If you are here for citizens to be heard, it is finally here. Sorry for that wait. So if you are here to speak on any item that is not on the agenda, please come forward. We ask you to state your name and to have filled out a card, and we respectfully ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mike Engelman. I live at 2958 Deer Run South, Clearwater, 33761. and I'd like to thank the mayor and the council members for this opportunity to speak on the futuristic transportation. When I hear terms like futuristic transportation, I ask myself, what does that mean? And I immediately have two questions. How far off is this future? And what will transportation needs be at that time? Is it just about moving people around, or should it take into account other purposes as well? To provide an example, let me diverge slightly. And I'm sorry if you already know this, but it's always helpful to reiterate for those of us not so familiar with this topic. Clearwater, along with Tarpon, Oldsmar, Dunedin, Largo, St. Pete, and Pinellas County, operate wastewater treatment facilities to treat all of the wastewater generated within the county. These facilities produce two end products: water clean enough to be sent back into our environment, and biosolids. We can generally see where the water goes, but you know what happens to those biosolids. Keep in mind that these biosolids are produced 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. All of these end up being trucked miles away from these individual facilities and disposed of out of the county, almost always land applied as a nutrient or occasionally landfilled in locations far away from Pinellas, such as Collier County, Lake Okeechobee, or the St. Johns River watershed area. Regulations are being developed that could likely eliminate land application, and the cost to landfill is becoming prohibitive, as there is a perception that the nutrients present in the biosolids contribute to agricultural runoff and impair adjacent water bodies. Okay, so what? Well, given this, Pinellas County Utilities is in the process of developing a regional resource recovery facility that is intended to take in biosolids from whatever partners want to participate with the county and convert it to renewable, sustainable products, generally in the form of energy, and to eliminate the need to land apply them. All of the utilities departments in the municipalities I previously mentioned are aware of this. This regional facility will be designed to accept biosolids in their current state, putting no undue burden on the treatment facilities. That means that the current trucks hauling these biosolids will be rediverted to this facility, certainly shortening the driving distance. At this time, a location at the closed Toy Town landfill, adjacent to the county's Bridgeway Acres landfill and waste-to-energy facility, is being considered as the most logical site for this facility. That's not cast in stone, but that's the most logical site. The current schedule for project completion is within the next 10 years, but the county is pursuing an aggressive schedule that is intended to move this forward much faster. So back to the futuristic transportation system. Interestingly, almost all of these treatment facilities are located near a logical route of any transit system. That includes Tarpon, Pinellas County, at the Dunn facility on alternate 19, Dunedin, Clearwater, Marshall Street, and the East facility. Instead of just hauling people around during the day and doing practically nothing while sitting idle during the night, any type of futuristic system should be designed to accommodate more than just people and serve more than one purpose, potentially moving biosolids and possibly other commodities during the off hours, making best use of the resources allocated to building and operating such a system. It's kind of difficult for me to see how a cable car type system could be accommodated to accomplish this, although I'm not a cable car system expert. I can more easily envision a system similar to the monorail style beach trend being adapted that could be dedicated to such a task. There may be other futuristic systems out there as well, but I encourage all of you.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up. If you want to send it to us in an email, we'll be
I have
happy to
one
read
sentence.
it. Okay.
Remember, futuristic means just that. You have to envision the needs of tomorrow, not just today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak on citizens to be heard? Good evening.
Good evening.
Did you fill out a card?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. If you could just state your name for the record.
Patricia Hotmeyer DePriest.
Thank you.
I'm coming because of not having enough communication. I have made attempts to speak with different individuals, and this isn't the forum that I would like, seeing as it's so open and it's personal. But I am the third of 4 generations of Clearwater residents. I've gone to school with some of your brothers and sisters. I have done consistent charity events for 25 years and still do. I took care of my mother, my grandmother, and my father from the beginning till the end of their illnesses so they could stay home for 24 continual years. I have been in an unfortunate circumstance for some time and trying to save my home. I tell you this so that you see me as a person and not a number, and everybody has a story, but I have one as well. I don't get to deal with the city attorneys. I have somehow an outside attorney that you have paid to handle my situation. I came last month when it was still, you all were just...
Virtual.
Yes, and I was under the impression that I would be on the agenda. I signed papers under duress, even though it says that I didn't sign under duress last Friday, so that I would be able to be on this agenda. I was told this, and as my attorney was. Excuse me. Then found out yesterday at the city when I was getting a roll-off for my father who has passed, and I'm trying to deal with this. This is all through code. So I got a roll-off, and when she called, and I'm sorry, I don't know his last name, I just always hear Michael, with the attorneys, and he said that he was not aware that it had been signed, and yet it was supposed to be sent right over on Friday of last week. So the lack of communication that we get from him and the delay that we get from him, and I'm not saying anything bad, he could be very, very busy, but this is my life, this is my home. Just not to hear anything, and it's very, very hard.
We have your contact information. This is the first I've heard of your situation. Ms. Aiken, do you have any?
Yeah,
I don't know if we
she's-
want to litigate this right
No,
here
no.
because it is personal
Mr.
and
Priest-
private.
Well, she is represented by an attorney,
Okay,
and we have been working with her attorney. Mr. Fuino can communicate with her attorney again tomorrow if there is still any confusion. And Mr. Fuino is here, but we have been communicating with her counsel.
And I'm sorry that it was only the 3 minutes, but he knew this timeline that I had, and the offer that I have on the property is less than half of the property appraisal, and that's to pay more than half of that to the city and the rest of it to the lawyer, with nothing left to help me fix my own home.
well, let us deal with this tomorrow. I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming out
And I
tonight.
thank you for listening.
It's just, we can't solve it in this forum.
Right.
But I will look into it tomorrow and get a report also from our city attorney, and somebody will be getting back to you, okay? Anyone else for citizens to be heard, Ms. Call?
That's your,
Emails?
one was from Howard Latham, Mayor Hibbert, council members, and Mr. Horn. Thank you for your work to better the lives of our community. I would like to extend a sincere thank you for the public records, Mr. Chuck Lane, and the team who worked tirelessly in our economic development and housing division. These are challenging times for us all, and where others might fail. Mr. Lane, Chuck, really shines an example of positivity and spirit. He is a kind dedication that ensures a better future for our community. I also commend council and Mr. Whip Lansing for publicly presenting the cable car system proposal for the beach to mainland access. This is the finest and most logical transit improvement idea I have heard in many years. A comment was submitted by Beth Davis. As you all discussed how to engage citizens at your work sessions in the last weeks, you did not mention learning about neighborhoods, listening to the leaders of the neighborhood coalition, quarterly, or improving the advisory board process. You Here you have citizens who want to contribute and be engaged with their lane of the city, air park, marine, environment, parks, and recreation and more. Expect staff to update them. Be charged with getting neighborhood feedback. Yes, call or knock on a few doors, get their opinions, and report back to you. The 1984 advisory boards met monthly and worked with the people of Clearwater and you. Please reset the expectations from our citizens representing our voice to you. We can do better. We do not want to be the city of concrete, vacant, empty property, abandoned land with no expectations, jet planes and a small air park, or parks that are fenced and unavailable for citizens. We voted yesterday, over 60% said we want our green space. You may not think we have an environmental problem to solve, but as you can see, many people do. We can do better. Our playgrounds should have shade from trees, all of them. Residents should have a beach, parking pass. Families should be happy to move here. Help us live our strength and heritage. We are counting on you.
Thank you, Ms. Call. I'd ask if there are any items from the consent agenda to be removed, 7.1 through 7.9, by either the council or anyone in the audience. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Now that we're all here together, you're all allowed to make a motion. I will say that.
I'll jump on board the next meeting. It just seems to be so efficient.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 8.1.
Approve the request from City of Clearwater staff to vacate a drainage and utility easement described as that portion of Hart Street lying north of blocks 9 and 10 of Jones subdivision of Nicholson addition to Clearwater, blocks 7, 8, 9, and 10 as recorded in Plat Book 4, page 82 of the public records of Hillsborough County, of which Pinellas County was once part, less and except that portion lying within 270.6 feet of the east line of Section 9, Township 29 South, Range 15 East, also less and except the railroad rights-of-way as recorded in Official Records Book 6626, page 429 of the public records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass ordinance number 9415-20 on first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Director. This easement is located entirely on city property. In fact, it's the gas plant, is the old term, I guess. We no longer need it for municipal use, so staff is recommending approval of this easement.
Any questions for Ms. Kivett? Anyone from the public to speak to this item? I have a motion.
Move to approve agenda item 8.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken?
Ordinance number 9415-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating a drainage and utility easement described as that portion of Hart Street lying north of blocks 9 and 10 of Jones subdivision of Nicholson addition to Clearwater, blocks 7, 8, 9, and 10, as recorded in Plat Book 4, page 82 of the public records of Hillsborough County, of which Pinellas County was once a part, less than except that portion lying within 270.6 feet of the east line of Section 9, Township 29 South, Range 15 East, also less than except the railroad rights-of-way as recorded in Official Records Book 6626, page 429 of the public records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
Anyone to speak to the ordinance? I have a motion.
Move to pass agenda item 8.2.
No.
No?
The ordinance.
Passing the ordinance that she just read on first
Oh,
reading.
okay. Then I move to pass that.
I have a motion to pass ordinance 9415-20. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Item 8.2.
Provide direction on the proposed hotel development agreement between Key Clearwater LLC property owner and the City of Clearwater, providing for the allocation of 3 units from the Hotel Density Reserve under Beach by Design, and confirm a second public hearing in City Council chambers before City Council on November 19, 2020 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as may be heard. Mr. Perry.
Thank you. Good evening. Mark Perry, Planning and Development. If it's all right, this application and the very next one are highly related. If it's okay, I'd like to do just one presentation for both, because they'll be almost identical anyway, if that's okay.
My back appreciates it.
No problem, and I'll even talk fast. This is a proposal for 2 hotel development agreements to allocate 5 units total to 2 hotels. Both of them were the subject of hotel development agreements over 10 years ago. Those agreements naturally expired. The 2 hotels were granted 174 units from the reserve for a total of 260 units. Only 255 were actually built, and this is a request to get those 5 units reallocated to the site. There'll be no changes to the size of the building or the height of the building. The only way you'd know that these units were back would be if you went inside. It's basically moving around interior things. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Perry? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, so these two are connected.
Yes.
So by ordinance, you have to split the properties because of the amount of allocation?
Exactly right. At some point, we're not sure when, apparently the property appraiser's office did a lot combination between the 2 properties. That has created some problems as compared to what our code and Beach by Design will allow. Beach by Design only allows up to 100 units to be allocated to any given project. This was 2 projects with a total of 174 units. So when they were tied back together, the choice is really, well, either split them back up or get 74 units back into the reserve. You can guess which way they went. They are going to split the properties back up. And mathematically, we've been working with them for about a year to make sure everything is perfect. And mathematically, we've got the proposed property line will make sure each property has the density it can have. And also, the property line will avoid cutting through any units. We can't have hotel units getting split between properties.
I understand. So you're looking just for direction on this, not a motion?
Correct. This would be to provide direction on both of these requests, 8.2 and 8.3.
And then it would be coming back to us at the next meeting.
Yes.
So for clarification, council, the motion is to confirm the public hearing date.
Right.
Yeah.
Councilmember
Oh, I got
Hamilton,
you.
did you have something?
No. No, I'm
Just pointing that out.
comfortable with that.
Yes. Anything else? Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Thank you, Mr. Perry. Stand by.
My name is Jamie Mayer for the applicant, and I just wanted to say staff has done a great job expressing what's going on here. We're happy to answer any questions today or at the next public hearing that you might have. And yes, it's an existing hotel, and this is just sorting out something that's been a bit of a pickle, but here we are, and staff has just done an amazing job, so thank you.
Thank you for recognizing that. Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Move approval of agenda item 8.2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 8.3.
Motion?
Bill, do you need
Do
to
you need
read
to
it,
read
or
it?
can we just make a motion?
He's already done the presentation for.
Yeah.
So move approval of agenda item 8.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.1.
Ordinance number 9400-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located in the north side of Carolyn Lane, approximately 330 feet west of North Highland Avenue, and located on the west side of West Drive, approximately 410 feet north of Greenlee Drive, whose post office addresses are 1468 Carolyn Lane and 1824 West Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
Anyone to speak to this item? I have a motion.
I move that we adopt ordinance 9399-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.2.
Ordinance number 9401-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida.
It's
9400.
9400.
I just did 9400.
I think,
Well,
yeah,
you-
the motion was for 9399, but you read 9400.
First.
Oops. That's what I have.
9.2 is the
93.99?
9400.
I've got it. You-
Okay, yeah.
So,
All right,
ord-
so a whole series of ordinances off here. Okay.
Do we need to just start over and I rescind my previous motion?
Yeah, undo all that.
Ordinance number 9399-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real properties located on the north side of Carolyn Lane, approximately 330 feet west of North Highland Avenue, and located on the west side of West Drive, approximately 410 feet north of Greenlee Drive, whose post office addresses are 1468 Carolyn Lane and 1824 West Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida, 33755, into the corporate limits of the city, and redefine the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I now move to adopt ordinance 9399-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.2.
Do we need to redo 9400? Okay, -20. An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real properties located on the north side of Carolyn Lane, approximately 330 feet west of North Highland Avenue, and located on the west side of West Drive, approximately 410 feet north of Greenlee Drive, whose post office addresses are 1468 Carolyn Lane and 1824 West Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida, 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? A motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9400-20 on second reading.
Second.
Now you're ruining the order.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nice job, Councilmember Barker. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.3.
Ordinance number 9401-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning outlets of the city by zoning certain real properties located on the north side of Carolyn Lane, approximately 330 feet west of North Highland Avenue, and located on the west side of West Drive, approximately 410 feet north of Greenlee Drive, whose post office addresses are 1468 Carolyn Lane and 1824 West Drive, all in Clearwater, Florida, 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item?
I move that we adopt ordinance 9401-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.4.
Ordinance number 9402-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the north side of San Bernardino Street, approximately 600 feet east of McMullen Booth Road. Whose post office address is 3142 San Bernardino Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item?
I move to adopt ordinance 9402-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.5.
Ordinance number 9403-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the north side of San Bernardino Street, approximately 600 feet east of McMullen Booth Road. Whose post office address is 3142 San Bernardino Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential urban RU, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 9403-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 9.6.
Ordinance number 9404-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located in the north side of San Bernardino Street, approximately 600 feet east of McMullen Booth Road. This post office address is 3142 San Bernardino Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33759. Upon annexation of the City of Clearwater is a low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.6? See none, motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9404-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 9.7.
Ordinance number 9405-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property comprised of 300 feet of Elizabeth Avenue right-of-way located approximately 970 feet north of Gulf to Bay Boulevard. Abutting real property is post office address is 327 David Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, and to the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 9.7? Have a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 9405-20 on second reading.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.1.
Amend the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 5, relating to the Downtown Development Board, and pass ordinance number 9414-20 on first reading. Ms. Thompson.
Yes, good evening. Amanda Thompson, your Community Redevelopment Agency Director. Sorry, I haven't talked in a couple of hours. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. I have with me Paris Morphopoulos, Chair of the Downtown Development Board, and Elise Winters, the DDB attorney. If you guys are okay with it, Paris would like to speak on this issue too a little bit. But tonight, we took your feedback from the work session and fixed capitalization and awkward wording in the draft ordinance, so you have an updated copy in front of you. But essentially what this is doing is taking the Downtown Development Board, the ordinance that governs their purpose and functions and the broad operations, it's modernizing it so it's updated to state standards regarding ethics and sunshine laws and public notice and all of that. It's taking out the more detailed things that really belong in bylaws, like how you do your accounting and what kind of financial reports and those kind of details. And then really clarifying the purpose, which is really the most important part for this independence tax district in downtown, which is just noting that the purpose really is downtown revitalization and that it should work with the city's adopted downtown plans and intended purposes, and that they will have an annual work plan. They will convene downtown stakeholders and receive feedback from their downtown stakeholders, that they can form partnerships, and that they can engage in a variety of activities, not just publication of brochures, in order to help with downtown revitalization. I'm happy to answer any questions, and then also the chair.
Mr. Morphopoulos, why don't you come forward? Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you being here at this meeting, standing up the entire time. Councilors. As chairman of the DDB, over the years I noticed that the code and the bylaws of the DDB were grossly outdated, dating back, I think their last revision was sometime in the 1980s. So it's not quite, ancient documents, but they were like historic documents. They refer to things like Greenwood Avenue, or it gave the DDB the right to issue a bond, which we have no interest in issuing bonds or floating bonds or things like that. So it needed to be modernized. An effort was started back in 2018 to do this, and a tremendous amount of work. I thought it was going to take a couple of evenings, and it's taken like 3 years. So I've done a lot of work on it. The board has reviewed it carefully. Amanda and our attorney, Elise, have done a tremendous amount of work on it. And we think we've modernized it and carefully split up the functions, gotten rid of the stuff that didn't need to be there. And we have a document that we can go forward that should last us many years going into the future. We didn't see anybody else that was actually going to take action to revise the city code on something as uninteresting as the section dealing with the DDB, so we did it ourselves, and we hope that you'll approve these changes.
Well, thank you for your efforts and the boards, Ms. Winters. Appreciate your work. Any questions for staff?
Thank you.
Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.1? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 10.1.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Mistaken?
Ordinance number 9414-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 5 of the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, amending definitions, amending the statement of policy and findings of Downtown Development Board, amending the boundaries of the Downtown Development Board, amending referenda and elections process held by freeholders in the Downtown Development Board geographic area, amending eligibility requirements to vote in freeholder elections, amending the bylaws, quorum, and meeting requirements for the Downtown Development Board, amending the functions and powers of the Downtown Development Board, creating a voting conflict of interest requirement, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9414-20 on first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 10.2.
Accept a gas utility easement from Spaleo Properties LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of a gas utility facilities on real property located at 600 alternate U.S. Highway 19, Pinellas County, Florida, and adopt Resolution 20-49. Mr. Langill.
Good evening. Brian Langill, Assistant Director for Clearwater Gas System. This is an easement that is up in Palm Harbor. It's to serve a commercial customer. It's on U.S. Alternate 19 in Palm Harbor, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Langill? Anyone from the public to speak to item 10.2? I have a motion.
Move to pass agenda item 10.2.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? Ms. Akins?
Resolution number 20-49, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, accepting utility easement from Spaleo Properties LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city utility facilities, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt resolution 20-49.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous? 10.3.
Amend the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Section 33.055, relating to the mooring, beaching, and placement of vessels, and pass ordinance number 9413-20 on first reading.
Ed Chesney, Marine and Aviation. As we discussed on Monday, this is amending an ordinance placing some time restrictions on the public docks. And if you have any further questions, I could try to answer those for you.
Any questions? Anyone from the public to speak to this item? Yes, Ms. Call.
Comment from Elizabeth Davis. I am speaking in support of.
I think she put it in the wrong
She put it in the wrong spot, so I'll wait till the next one.
Okay. No one else from the public. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 10.3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Ms. Aiken?
Ordinance number 9413-20, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending Section 33.055 of the Clearwater Code of Ordinances to limit a vessel's daily hours of occupancy of certain non-leased public dock slips, providing an effective date.
Motion.
Move to pass ordinance 9413-20 on first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chesney, Mr. Horn?
Mayor, before he leaves, can he give you an update on the Mandalay Channel driver update?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, a couple of work sessions ago or months ago, we were talking about mooring out on Mandalay Channel, and there had been some discussions about others knowing of diving that has gone on in that area and seeing waste at the bottom of the channel. So I was asked to look at whether or not we could get somebody out there to do a dive for us and possibly sample that area for us. So we did that working with the procurement office. We put out a scope. The scope was to dive the area, so I worked with the scope, and we've identified Dive Tech. They are a diving team that the city has used before. They dove Town Pond for us and did some sampling. They've dove other sites in and around the area. They've also dove Mandalay Channel for Duke Energy for some old vacated removal. So talking about the diving, so I talked to Dive Tech, and what they'll do is they can bring down a team of divers, and what they'll do is have a person on the boat, and they would like a representative from the city on the boat, which I volunteered to be, and we can actually see live in the boat with the diver, and there's communication back and forth. So as he or she is diving, they will stop, we can stop them, they'll see things, they'll take pictures, and we will get a whole video of everything that's there, and it'll be time-stamped for things of interest, and it'll be for a while. So that's a good thing, so we can actually see if there's anything there, and we'll have to schedule that based on the weather and certain things too, because of the turbidity there. We want a clear day. So then I talked to him about sampling. Sampling is a bit challenging. We can do it, but we have to understand what we're going to do with when we get the results. So if we go down there and we see something and we sample, and what they do is they sample the water column and then down at the bottom the sediment. So I got some unit prices to do this sampling. Once the results come back, and what we're looking for are fecal coliform type sampling, and we'll look for, there's certain types they do for warm-blooded mammals, and they can tell the difference what we're getting, not just for the fish. The problem we'll have when we get the samples, what do we do with them, and how do we decide what is actually there? Because we don't have a baseline for Mandalay Channel. Mandalay Channel is a big channel. It's got a lot of tidal flushing, and so when we get some samples, it's going to be, we don't know if it's going to be upstream, downstream, or right where we did the sampling. So we'll have some sampling results. We just won't have anything to compare them against. So that's the.
So this creates a baseline.
Well,
Is there GPS mapping for this underwater?
Yes.
So you know everywhere that they've gone, and
yeah,
you can go back
to that location, yes.
a year or two from now and see what's changed?
We could do that, yes.
Okay.
So the quotes came in, they were all over the place, but I recommended we went with the Dive Tech quote based on their response to our scope and the fact that we've successfully used them before. They're using Pace Lab for the laboratory samples, which is the same lab the public utilities uses, so I'm comfortable with that.
To how much?
It's $3,000. It's not bad at all. I had one for
So that's under your
$25,000.
authority. You could just, do you want our consensus to go forward?
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll cover it if you all want to do it.
I don't know if I want to find out everything, but Councilmember Beckman, and then
You
Vice
had your
Mayor.
hand up first, but I have so we might not have a baseline, but don't we have standards from the EPA that say this is a red flag, or this is not healthy, or this isn't good for fish or marine life?
Not in this sense. I mean, we're sampling open waters. You know, we have no jurisdiction over the waters. We've got no obligation to sample them. For example, if we had a spill or something, if we broke one of our underwater sewer lines, we could sample at the break, and then we would sample upstream and downstream, and we could get, okay, here's kind of a baseline here. It's moving down here. It's hot here. With this type of sampling, we really don't have a baseline, so it's going to be very subjective. And if we were to use it for something, we couldn't use it to say this came from these boats or from that boat or whatever. So it's just going to be a confirmation that there is some sort of bacteria, human or animal, in the water.
Right. I mean, well, and Councilmember Hamilton has made statements that it's not good out there.
It's not. That's the reports I've gotten from experienced divers that are friends, and but I also can't let this opportunity go by when you talk about the tidal flushing, and I know Councilmember Albritton will attest to this. We're not getting near the tidal flushing now that we used to get when Dunedin Pass was open. So, if there's a way to get that reopened, we'd see even better water quality. So,
I mean, and in the
can't let that pass.
Oh no, I agree with you completely. We have asked FWC, who has jurisdiction over this, to inspect these vessels, and they do the inspecting, but they're not interested in sampling. They have to have an eyewitness, witnesses themselves of this discharge. So the sampling,
So a smoking gun, which is almost impossible.
it's almost impossible, so.
But I'd like to, I mean, I think the $3,000 to at least get really get a feel for what's there and verification of what's there, I think is well worth the expenditure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
Everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Great.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
originally, they were talking about doing videoing or something, and I questioned that because I can tell you, it's very hard to see when you're down. I mean, the water's not very clear, and I don't know what attributes to that, but I know we have warm water here and a lot of things grow in the water, you know, but I'm glad we're doing this. At least we can find out, and we can use this as a baseline to go forward if need be, so.
And I did talk to Dive Tech, and they dove the Mandalay Channel right there by the rec center where the underground utility was. So they're familiar with the visibility, so they said they would work with me on wind and, you know, the best time to go, because otherwise it could just be all stirred up. So we'll pick a date and a time when we think we'll get the best response.
One more question.
Sure.
I think a year or so ago, I made the motion, I looked back on the council meetings to procure a boat to do free pumping of state, you know, of boats. So, and I think I asked a question a month or two, maybe it's been a couple of months now. Is that boat working? Are we doing that? Are we offering free pump outs to boats?
No, we are not at this time.
When did we quit?
What we had was, we have a pump out boat and a grant, and the grant is expired, so there's no more money on the grant, but we still have the boat. The problem with the pump out boat was we offered pump outs 1 day a week, which were Mondays. So we could only do 6 to 8 pump outs a day with our crew. So we were doing pump outs on private residences, all the way up to Carlowell, Island Estates, down to the yacht club in South Beach. It was the same people every Monday. You had to get on the list. We were doing pump outs for individual people, and we were having problems being on private docks. People were not home. Things were missing. Caps were lost. So, you know, one of our risk management things, the intent was to do the pump outs in the marina. We since have, you know, we have a pump out at the beach. We have 2 pump outs downtown. This pump out boat came to us through a grant in 2011, and it's really outgrew its purpose. If we were going to do pump outs, the people have to want the pump out. All of those boats that sit out there,
No, they don't request it.
they don't request it. The only people requesting it were the same group of people, and we were traveling from Carlowell to South Beach all day long for a few pump outs of the same people. So when the grant expired, I suspended the pump out because we provide it at 3 other locations.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation, because I've been wondering what happened to that boat, so. no.
I would like to surplus it and find somebody that could maybe use it and make some money on it. What it did for my department was we took people out of the Beach Enterprise Fund and we're doing free pump outs outside of that. So it wasn't, and then when there was a problem at the beach, all my guys were on the boat because you had to have 3 people operating it for security. So it was really a problem when I came over to Marine and Aviation for us.
Okay, thanks.
But some of those boats in Mandalay Channel, can they even move? Do they have motors?
No.
Some of them do. The more sophisticated ones, that like the Airbnbs.
Yeah, I
they do
understand
move.
that, but,
The other ones, they don't.
so there's only one way that they're pumping
There's
out.
only one way. And I don't know where they're getting their water. So there's never any water. I've had people call me and ask me if they can get free water, where the water is available. So I don't think they're using their actual pump out. I think they use 5-gallon buckets because of the system and the water that they need for those systems to operate.
I have one last.
Yes.
That's pretty pleasant conversation. So if Duke, or if this dive team has gone to some other parts around us and done sampling for other reasons?
haven't sampled.
They've
They
never,
video.
ever done samples around,
Correct.
okay. I just thought at least they'd return to where but they've never taken samples around.
Never taken samples.
And no other organization has taken samples ever? Wow.
Not that I'm aware of.
Anything else?
We're not going to be forced to watch the video, are we?
I'll screen it for you.
Thanks.
Okay. Item 10.4.
Are you gonna read it, or do you want me to read it?
Appoint one member to the Marine Advisory Board to fill the remainder of the unexpired term through March 31st, 2021. Council members, in your agenda packs, you have applications for Julie Battaglia, Miranda Douglas, Roger Schulman, Aaron Smith-Levin, David Farrar, Dina Stanley, Michael Bergeron, and Nicole Kent. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Gall?
I would nominate Ms. Douglas for this position. I think, given her time she spends on the water, business-wise and everything, I think she'd be a good addition to this board.
I would second that.
We have a comment.
Yes. Elizabeth Davis, I am speaking in support of candidate Peter Kohut.
This
He's
is
not on
still the
this.
wrong
Still the wrong
agenda
one.
item.
Still the wrong one.
It's coming up,
I'm
but,
sorry.
Do it on the next one.
okay, discussion?
I think she's a great candidate. I'm impressed with her community service and her engagement with youth in marine skills and careers. She has experience on the water, and I think she brings diversity to the board, which is fantastic.
I agree, I support that. I support her, so. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 10.5.
Appoint one member to the Community Development Board as the alternate member to fill the remainder of an unexpired term through April 30, 2022. Oh, I'm sorry. In your agenda packs, Council, you had applications for Chelsea Allison, Leslie Coley, Brenda Dallas Griffith, David J., Peter Kohut, and Nils Kushta.
I'd make a motion to appoint Niels Kushta. I looked at his application and he has done the Clearwater Citizens Academy. He's a young fellow in marketing. He is an owner of a construction company, a part owner. But he's a young guy, I think, that has an interest in being on our boards, and I think he'd be a good one for the CDV.
I'd like to, I think Peter Kohut would be better because what I liked about his application is he has served as a city engineer in 5 different municipalities, so he's got that. He has not had board service, along with Nils Kushta, who has not had board service either. So I think that's good to let someone else have a turn. But I really liked his phrasing, Mr. Kohut's, about partnership of the developer and citizens in government, and he wants to look for balance, growth, and prudent control of existing services. So I liked his experience. And we had a number of residents communicate that they were in support of his appointment on that board as well.
Do you want to read the comment now, that it's appropriate?
Sorry. Elizabeth Davis, I'm speaking in support of candidate Peter Kohut. I ask that you vote for him as a new member of this board. Residents across the city are looking for balance and experienced representation. Mr. Kohut can serve us with a wide background of civil engineering work over many towns and cities. Site planning, long-term vision all matter. Choosing his retirement here in the last 6 years, his knowledge and perspective bring fresh vision. His commitment to our mission and values make him the best candidate. Thank you, Beth Davis.
Other comments, or?
I would agree with that.
So I make a motion to appoint Peter Kohut to the
Community redevelopment.
oh my gosh.
PDB.
Community redevelopment.
Yes, CDB.
Board.
I'm reading my notes about the DDB.
Okay, I have a motion. A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay. Motion fails.
I would second Mr. Kushta, because of his knowledge of the construction requirements and for this board. I think Mr. Kohut is a good fit for our next board, for the Municipal Code Enforcement Board. Given his interaction that we've had with him at the city level, I think code enforcement is a good fit for him. I don't think Community Development Board is as good a fit. So, and for that reason, that's why I will either make the motion or I will second.
Well, we'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion for him to be appointed to the Community Development Board.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
4-1 with Councilmember Beckman in opposition. 10.6.
Appoint the members of the Municipal Code Enforcement Board with terms to expire October 31st, 2023. Appoint one member to fill the remainder of an unexpired term through October 31st, 2021. And appoint one member to fill the remainder of an unexpired term through October 31st, 2022. Council members, in the work session, you had expressed an interest in reappointing Ms. Sheila Cole. My question would be to clarify if, I'm assuming since she was serving, that you would appoint her for a full term and not one of the unexpired terms. And then in your agenda packs, you had applications for Greg Brown, Lena Teixeira, David Farrar, Peter Kohut, Nicole Bray, and Robert Ferrera.
What's your pleasure?
Well,
You want to do them one at
You
a
wanna do
time?
one at a time? I would nominate Sheila Cole for one of the full-term appointments.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion for Peter Kohut as one of the members.
I'll second that.
Did he apply?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't, well, that's not in my packet.
You may have only put it in the one he's.
Okay. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I seconded it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
And we need one more.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion for Lena Teixeira.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that for discussion.
All right.
I guess my only question, and I think Lena would do a very good job, but and she's probably not going to be happy with me about this, but I'm looking at her very similarly to discussion we had on Monday. I know Councilmember Bunker brought up Aaron Smith-Levin's name. Both of these individuals have publicly declared that they will be running for city council in the next election. I'm not sure, I think Lena could do a very good job on this board. I just, do we want to put somebody on that conceivably could, have to come off? I mean, that's not a bad thing if they have to come off if they get elected to this body. But it's just something to think about. I mean, I'm if everybody else is happy with Lena, I have no problem voting in favor of it. That's for sure. So I'd like to know if anybody has issues with it.
I don't have an issue with it. I mean, she's done a great job for DCMA. I see her energy.
Oh, she's
did
got great
run,
energy. I wish I had it.
I don't see why not, but that's my opinion.
Okay, then my
I
second,
think building a bench through people being on our boards is a wonderful way to prepare people for being up here, I think.
then my second stands for the nomination.
Other comments? Councilmember Beckman, anything?
Well, I just thought, we have people go through the Citizens Academy with the idea that I understand that we encourage them to apply to boards and serve on boards if they want to get to know how the city operates, and if they want to move up in service. So I don't see a problem with people who are thinking of running, wanting to serve on boards and should be able to serve on boards. One thing I like to think about is to have a variety of people have turns to serve on different boards and contribute to the city. And so, there are a number of people, this Nicole Bray seems pretty impressive. I think she'd be a great fit for an environmental advisory board with a PhD in environmental science. But if she's applied for this one, I think she could bring a different perspective and hasn't served on boards before. So that's something to think about.
Councilmember, there's still 2 other appointments, so this is just a third for the full one, and we still have 2 more.
Oh, all right, okay. Sure, then I'm okay with Lena if we're just talking about that one.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
So the next appointment is to fill the remainder of an unexpired term.
I thought we've already given 3 names, though.
Yes, 3, but there's actually 5 appointments on
There's
this.
2 that are
Oh,
fulfilling people who have departed.
So I'll make a motion for Nicole Bray to fill that unexpired term. Is that the last one to fill?
No, there's
Oh,
one after.
There's
One more.
one after that? All right, so we're not going in order of the, okay.
I'll second that, and question, Rose, the appointments to expired terms, they will basically automatically be eligible for reappointment when that term expires?
It won't count as a full term.
Okay, perfect.
So is this for the 2021?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear a second.
David?
Kathleen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought
Thank
Kathleen
Kathleen?
did.
I made the motion. You did the second.
Oh, David, get a second.
So the last one is through October 31st, 2022.
Anyone? I can't make a motion, so you guys got to step up.
Well, I know David Farrar, I've worked with him on the IECA, but I was also reading
Mr. Brown?
Robert as well. I would say, I know David's got energy, I know him, I'd go ahead and make a motion for him for the unexpired, or for the unexpired term.
I'll second that. I have no problem with that.
Any questions or comments? Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. 10.7,
Mr. Graham Chief Graham is here.
we're going to start putting you after citizens to be heard.
Thank you. Good evening, Javon Graham, Division Chief of Emergency Management. As we go through another week of extending this emergency proclamation, just wanted to reiterate I know it doesn't have to be reiterated here, but to the public as well, the serious threat and the pandemic that we are dealing with. It's no surprise, nationwide, our numbers are rising. Our county alone, we're at 26,676, 830 deaths, and we've had over 2,500 hospitalized due to this pandemic and this illness. We are still rising, or actually I should say our numbers are plateauing or going up again. The numbers we are seeing right now are the numbers that we saw at the end of June when we started having our rise in numbers and our influxes numbers. A lot of this is due to schools reopening, children going back to schools, A lot of our testing, we're getting a combination of the teachers and the students, and also with the holidays where people tend to throw caution to the wind and want to gather socially and in mass groups. So we just want to reiterate the importance of this declaration, this resolution, reiterate to the public, wear your mask, wash your hands, hand sanitizing, social distancing, protect each other and protect yourselves. Any questions?
Any questions for Chief Graham? Councilmember Beckman.
I just wanted to confirm that I heard you correctly. That first number, 26,000 something something,
26,676.
that was cases?
That is positive confirmed cases in our county.
Okay. I thought I might have heard deaths, but it was cases.
No, deaths is only was at 8:30.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good thing. The fatalities have actually lowered, and they are staying fairly low. I mean, that's a lot of it is due to our healthcare system. We're not getting overrun in that aspect. They seem to be able to maintain because I think countywide, citywide, the precautions that we have put in place.
Do I have a motion for the resolution?
Do we need to confirm, do we have to approve the agenda item? Move approval of agenda item 10.7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Ms. Aiken?
Resolution number 20-56, confirmation of COVID-19 emergency proclamation, November 5th, 2020. A resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, confirming declarations of a state of emergency, providing an effective date.
Move to adopt resolution 20-56.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Ms. Aiken, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, we are to item 12.1. It is 8 o'clock, so we've been going 2 hours. Do you want a break?
No.
We'll power through.
It's up to you though, Mayor. How you doing?
Well, no, I just soon keep going, but if
I'm good.
anyone needs a bio break, I mean, anyone? Okay. 12.1.
Okay.
Do we
I don't know
need
if
Pam-
Jennifer
Pam-
is saying anything,
Do
or?
we need Pam and Bill to leave while we have the discussion? Or is anybody uncomfortable having this discussion with them in the room?
We have typically left the room while you have this discussion, but we didn't.
Well, I don't remember that, but go ahead. You're welcome to leave. Then you can do a bio break.
You guys get Where are you going to be so we know where to find you after we get done with our discussion?
Right around the door. Liz.
Right outside
On the
here?
other side of the door.
We'll have a cup through the door.
I don't remember sending them out, but
Oh,
do you?
I've always sent them out.
You can watch it. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's kind of silly.
Well, that's what they used to do. They used to go into Bill's office and watch it on TV.
Yeah. Okay, Jennifer, fire away.
Good evening. Jennifer Poyer, Human Resources Director. At the last council meeting, the performance was reviewed for both the city manager and city attorney, and typically at the subsequent meeting is when the council will have discussion in regards to any type of a pay increase. There has been a 3.5% increase budgeted. Anything above that would require a budget amendment. I've provided you with the salary of the comparables, of which it does show that the salaries of our city manager and city attorney are lagging behind their comparators, both if you pull the county salaries out or if you leave them in. Last year, they did both get a 3.5% increase. You do have the historical data as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Poyer? I mean, we have a bargain. I think one of the things that all citizens need to understand is we do pay our city attorney and city manager far less than competitors in the region. Part of that is staying somewhere so long.
It is.
That's why people jump around occasionally to get that huge jump. And they also really sacrificed back during the Great Recession. We tried to make them more whole later down the road, but and we are, going into a tumultuous time with the economy, with COVID. I will say it is not exactly the same as 08, 09 in that we haven't seen property values plummet the way they did back then, which is a huge, huge factor. And the other factor is we haven't seen the market crater because it put real pressure on the pension back then, when the market did so poorly in '08, '09. We don't have any of those pressures now, but I think the economy is going to continue to struggle. I don't think we are going to get them up to the competitors, but I would support moving forward with the 3.5, which we have seen for, our other bargaining units, and I think they deserve it. They probably deserve more, but I would support that.
And I think they both did an excellent job this last year, as I stated in my review, with the pandemic, which is we've never had anything like that before, and to pull through with as many, very few city employees that actually came down with COVID and kept everything moving smoothly. Our citizens didn't lose. It was very short period of time we lost some services, but I could give them both a star for that, and Pam always puts in extra time, so I would make a motion for the 3.5. I support that for both.
I'll
I'd second that.
Any other discussion or comments?
Simple.
Well,
Simple.
We're good.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Micah.
Thank you.
There they are. It was quick and unanimous.
Do we tell them, or do we make them go back and watch the meeting to figure it out?
I'm not that much of a masochist, so, although they do have the fast forward button. So we moved for a 3.5% increase. I hope that's acceptable to both of you.
Thank you very much.
You both got wonderful reviews. We also took into account what we may be sailing into as far as the economy. But thank you. We'd like to get you up to your competitors, but. Closing comments. Vice Mayor.
Well, the only thing I want to say is that, during this election, this whole election period, everybody's been on edge. We've had such a disparity of views from one to another. I want everybody to just catch a breath. And however turns out, this is America. This is the greatest country in the world. We're gonna keep on going. I want everybody to start being nice to their neighbor. I know I keep saying this every council meeting, but it's real important to me. I want to see everybody get back and be nice again to each other, and to take each other, just be a good neighbor and just be a nice person. We're all ready for that. Everybody's in the same boat, so I hope that who's ever listening out there, maybe the 2 or 3 people, that they pass it along to their friends.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Bunker?
Well, I certainly agree with that. This has been a very stressful time for most of us, I think. And it's particularly stressful when you see, tensions between friends. And we can't allow that to happen. So I'm glad that I'm feeling some of the stress leaving already, and hopefully we won't see any negative reactions whichever way it comes out. And we can move on and start to heal.
Councilmember Beckman?
just a little bit. So I want to say happy November. Election season has come and it will soon be over. It's not over yet, as far as I haven't checked my phone. So I wanted to take a minute and say thank you to all the candidates who ran, who put in the time, the sweat, the energy. I think we all know what that's about. And I wanted to say thank you a million times over for all of the everyday people who work to give voters a voice, who registered people to vote, who helped people get free photo IDs, who helped returning citizens get information about any fines or fees that were owed, and helped them gain scholarships to help settle any of those debts. Thank you to those who made calls, who sent text messages, who printed walk lists, those who helped cure ballots, those who handed out palm cards, and those who worked the polls, some for 2 weeks prior to Election Day. They were open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Those are the people who make democracy work, just as much as any elected official. And I wanted to say thank you to all of our applicants for those at our advisory boards. It's good to see so many people applying. Thank you. I applaud your willingness to volunteer your time and expertise. And I look forward to learning from you and collaborating with you as we have a scheduled, at our next work session, I understand we have a scheduled discussion on advisory boards and their role and purpose and how we can utilize them better. And while it seems that we are a divided country, nearly evenly split for two very, very distinct candidates, there are a few issues that we seem to agree on. I was really happy to see that the Pinellas County voters voted overwhelmingly at 80% to support the millage increase or allocation for our public school teachers. And on Clearwater voters who sent a message that green space matters. There are many issues that we can work on to build consensus, to collaborate, and to continue to do what is best for our city and our residents and businesses. I am very proud to be representing you. I am working very hard. I'm doing my best, and I want to say thank you for attending the meeting or tuning in. And thank you to our amazing department leaders and city staff who work tirelessly for all of us. And finally, I want to say congratulations to Mr. Jim Halios in his new position as Director of Parks and Recreation. I'm excited to see what he'll do with that department as we move forward with Imagine Clearwater and other parks in our community. And I hope they have a wonderful evening. Sorry.
I too would congratulate all the winners in the election, and commend all the people who didn't win for putting in an effort. Some of the tactics when you get into the state level and federal, national level offices are just terrible. Especially when you get a totally negative ad about one candidate, and yet it doesn't state who the opposition to that candidate is. It just says this person's a bad person, but you don't, it doesn't even mention who the person running against that person is. So I think that's ridiculous. But I'm 62 years old. We've gone through presidential changes and administrative changes, and everybody fears, it's all, and a lot of times it's doomsday, but we've always survived and we've always progressed. And I have faith that no matter what happens, whatever the eventual outcome of the presidential election, we will do that. I'm a little more worried about some of the constitutional amendments that passed, the unintended consequences that you could see from those. It was very easy for a lot of people to look at $15 an hour minimum wage and say, yes, let's do this. But the unintended consequence is going to be the services you get, the food you're buying, your rent payments, everything is going to go up according to the expense that the employer incurs based on that $15 an hour. So it's basically, it's going to be, in the end, it might end up being a wash, but I hope it's not as negative as it could be. I was talking with the city manager and the city attorney today, and this is totally off topic, but it's one of those where our community is going and where society is going. It's my wife and I were shopping about a week and a half ago. We were at Macy's at Countryside Mall, and we were on the second floor, and I'll bet you there weren't 8 salespeople on the entire floor on a Tuesday night. It's because people aren't shopping, people aren't going to retail stores anymore. They're doing all their shopping online at Amazon. We're losing personal interaction and social interaction with people you don't know and whatnot because of COVID and because of social media and everything else. And like I said, like I told them, I said, I'm old enough where, now I'm probably not going to be still around to see some of it, but I fear for what society's going to be like for my grandkids as they get older. when I look at some of the things that are going on now. I hope I'm totally wrong, but indicators that I see don't give me, a warm, fuzzy feeling. But to end on a great note, November is here, the election's behind us, and Christmas is just around the corner. So,
Thank you. November is the final month of hurricane season. Hurricane Eta could bring some unsettled weather to our area next week. Find preparation tips and more by visiting myclearwater.com/myhurricaneprep. City offices will be closed for Veterans Day holiday. That is November 11th, this coming Wednesday. The city's solid waste department will be working, and there will be no changes to the collection schedule. City of Clearwater Rent, Mortgage, and Utility Assistance Program. The City of Clearwater is seeking to assist residents hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic if they are behind on their rent, mortgage, or utility payments. The Rent, Mortgage, and Utility Assistance Program is open to the Clearwater applicants for up to $5,000 in unpaid rent, mortgage, or utility bills dated March 1st, 2020 or later. The City of Clearwater's annual Sweet Swap. If you are looking to get rid of some of those sweet treats from Halloween, then the Sweet Swap is for you. I need to get rid of them. Fortunately, we didn't buy many. Clearwater Recreation Centers will be collecting sweets that will be sent to the troops overseas. Kids can trade in candy for chances to earn prizes. One raffle ticket will be given for each pound of candy collected for a chance at winning. Drop-off sweets November 2nd through November 7th at any Clearwater Rec Center for ages 17 and younger. And Paint Your Heart Out is coming up, which is always a great event. It's on Saturday, November 14th in the City of Clearwater with the volunteer Paint Your Heart Out event taking place to help beautify homes of those in need. For more information on locations and volunteer opportunities, email pyhocpaintmyhouse@gmail.com. In addition to Paint Your Heart Out, the City of Clearwater will also be sponsoring a Paint the Pavement placemaking event the same day. Artists and volunteers will be painting a mural on the intersection of Martin Luther King Avenue and Woodlawn Street in the Lake Bellevue neighborhood. The public is invited to see these talented artists in action throughout the day. Wearing of masks and social distancing is encouraged. I too want to congratulate Jim Hallios. He's worked with the city. It's great to see somebody that goes through a national search and rises to the top internally and takes over a department. I think Jim's going to be a wonderful leader for that Parks and Recreation Department. And a couple things have already been said about the election. But understand that America is stronger than the Democratic Party. It's stronger than the Republican Party. We're going to endure whatever we have to endure for the next couple of weeks. But I hope we will remember how important the character of our country is and that we will come together. I have friends on both sides of the aisle. And I've had people that under different presidencies said, that person is not my president. I don't know who is going to win this election, but whoever ultimately does is going to be my president, whether I voted for him or not. And we all ought to be praying that they have wisdom and they continue to prosper this nation and unite us. So it's just food for thought. We're adjourned. God bless.